There's coffee, unlimited coffee in a lot of workplaces. I know in the past I was doing 3 energy drinks a day, and it basically doesn't have any effect on me anymore. When I drink caffeine, I actually almost fall asleep.
The cost of greatness is responsibility. Winston Churchill. That line is the spine of this show. Greatness isn't hype, it's responsibility for your body, your decisions, your health, and the people who depend on you. Jesse Kessler, after years of podcasts and our voice memos on Slack huddles, we're finally doing the real thing. What's up, buddy? How you doing today?
Great, man. I'm very excited for this. I know that we've been friends for a very long time, and we always have incredible ideas to bounce back and forth with each other, some great conversations, and we both love to help other people. So I hope a lot of people can listen to this and take a lot of value from it.
Likewise. So, built different. That's a shirt slogan. That's a lot of captions. That's a lot of people's bios, those 2 words. What does built different mean to you?
For me, after being around a lot of high performers and going through a lot of things over the past decade or 2, built different means that obviously not like anybody else. That's the biggest one for me, because you can pick and choose who you can kind of emulate, or pick and choose your life goal or life trajectory. And in a lot of ways, I know that me and my wife choose to do almost everything different. We homeschool, we don't go by the norms. I hate going out on weekends. We have a date night like once every 2 weeks, but we do things that we want to do, not what society tells us that we have to do as well. What about you?
Yeah, I think I align with that. I definitely align with, doing things that society. I go against the grain in a lot of ways. As I've gotten older, I've found that I'm a little less. I'm not built different because of a rebellious side, but it's just actually how I'm made up. So it comes down to discipline and standards for me. What are the standards that I have for myself that will get me towards excellence or help me pursue greatness as I define greatness? What are the little daily disciplinary actions that I need to do in order to keep pursuing greatness? So, it comes down to very little things. It's not always the big monumental things, but believe it or not, most of my life I did not make my bed. I was very against it. My mom tried to make me when I was younger, and it always pissed me off. But I started doing that probably 3 or 4 months ago. And that's something I do every single day now, just because it's a win. It's one task that I can easily complete and start building momentum for the rest of the day. So disciplinary actions like that, drinking water in the morning, staying off my phone for 30 to 45 minutes, because once I enter that phone, that's when, the whole day goes fast paced and chaos starts. But these little disciplinary actions and choosing to follow them, because it's one thing to say you're going to make your bed, or say you're going to not get on your phone for 45 minutes, or say you're going to go to the gym, or say you're going to do cardio, whatever the action is. But it's another thing to actually make yourself do it and stick to it and stay consistent with it. So as easy as it sounds, you're built different if you can make yourself do the little things that most people wish they could do or think about doing, but they just don't do.
Yeah, what about if you don't do them? That feeling that you have inside as well, that that most people, not most, a good majority of people would be like, oh yeah, okay, whatever, I didn't do it. But I feel like people that are built different would come in and be like, oh crap, I don't like how I feel. I feel terrible for not doing it. It's a punishment in my head. Like, go through all these different thoughts and be like, I should have done that. And then also getting over that, instead of just sitting there being sad or mad about it, get the opportunity and being able to get over that at the same time, right? Just moving on to the next task. All right. Instead of just sitting with it. be regimented, go do the next thing. What's the next goal? Go hit that.
Yeah, that's that feeling of guilt when you don't do something that you told yourself you were going to do. I think that guilt leads to what most people would say is anxiety, when in all reality, the cure for your anxiety was just doing what you said you were going to do, because then you have peace and fulfillment all in one from just accomplishing these little tasks. What does discipline look like in your day to day life? What are some things, some metrics that you track for discipline?
Well, first of all, I don't think that we will ever be 100% happy with our daily choices and discipline because we're always striving to be better because we are built different. But we're still dealing with that in our own ways. Every morning, I need to get up before the rest of the world to get some stuff done as well. I believe that pretty soon I'm going to be changing my routine. Right now, I go eat first thing in the morning and then I go train. I have realized that my brain works a lot differently first thing in the morning. That's when it works the best. So that will only benefit myself, my family, and my company as well. So I need to switch things up like that. Very disciplined to be inside my house at a specific time to see my family and my kids, right? Because entrepreneurs and busy high performers will work all day and night without being disciplined to, and sometimes their family suffers, right? I know that my family's suffering a little bit, but we don't want that to happen. So we make sure that we make time for each other. We have family meals as well. Make sure that we get our different meals in during the day, whether we have to go cook it or not. So I don't have the time to go cook meals. So we have our meals prepared as well, right? So everybody has a different type of lifestyle, and ours is just so busy in this period of our life that we have to find the discipline in other areas. We are fortunate enough to be able to find a nanny as well, so Elise can work in the business too, and not stay up all night and not sleep like she tends to do sometimes. But other than that, making sure to do things I love sometimes, like at least getting in the gym. I only got to golf like 2 or 3 times last year because, as we talked about, I haven't seen a lot of daylight recently because we're grinding. Now, that doesn't mean that everybody else needs to do that, right? Again, it's a season, and me myself, I can admit some flaws because I haven't put the right pieces into place as far as standard operating procedures or the fact that I'm just trying to do a lot myself. So I'm looking forward to having that discipline to add to my structure soon, to be able to pull out a little bit and be able to look at things from a bird's eye view, to delegate a little bit more. You and I actually chatted about that yesterday, possibly more management positions, but also in my day to day, making sure I get to bed at a specific time, making sleep a priority. A lot of people do not make that sleep a priority. I've just recently, per your recommendation, you recommended a peptide to me. Yes, I'm telling everybody that that it was. I added DSIP, and it has been crazy. Usually, with human growth hormone peptides, I feel like I have a lot more REM sleep, but I feel it DSIP is a game changer as well. So thank you.
Yeah, and that's just from personal use. DSIP has completely revamped my sleep structure, sleep architecture, the nervous system reset that I feel from it. I actually get up. Even if I didn't get enough hours, there's still that feeling of like restfulness and not, the wired but tired feeling where then you're chasing caffeine all day and you're just compounding the problem over time until eventually you hit the wall. And I think that's where a lot of people in their heads start to say, "Oh, I'm burnt out," but it's starting with the root basics. So, sleep for me this year, we're recording this 2 weeks into 2026. So it's a good time to be talking about, the bird's eye view, like you mentioned, looking at everything on a periodized lens on the 12-month year. If we're talking non-negotiables, sleep is one for me. I'm pretty good at discipline towards a lot of things, just because I've been bodybuilding for a lot of years, and I'm genuinely a naturally disciplined person. When I set my mind to something, I do it. But if I'm admitting my flaws and calling myself out, I've never treated my sleep like a priority. I've treated it as almost like an afterthought or something that when it happens, it'll happen. But that's not actually the case. You have to create a sleep routine to get yourself in that state to have quality sleep. So sleep hygiene is a big thing I'm focusing on. Setting hard stops for work because I'm naturally a night owl. I'm less apt to want to work in the early morning than I am at night. 8, 9, 10, 11 p.m. when the rest of the world is shut down is when I can create magic. So I have to break that habit. And to do that, I have to set stop times for myself, wind down, dim all the lights, do stuff that's calming or parasympathetic, whatever that looks like for me, and then treat sleep as a priority so I can have 12 months of productivity and efficiency and not hit burnout spells like I have in the past. But DSIP I think where it shines is that it helps with circadian rhythm reset, because a lot of people like us, we get into these spurts where, you have a late night grind and you were productive, but you took away from the next day's productivity because of what you did today. And that used to be how I lived, was kind of, kill it for 16 hours, stay up till 3 a.m. Next day is already compromised no matter how good I do because of that one day. And then maybe the day after that, and then maybe the day after that. So to your point about, you mentioned golfing, only getting out 2 to 3 times. I'm actually trying something new this year. And I think a lot of guys and girls similar to us who are in, whether they're CEOs, entrepreneurs, they work a lot of hours. Maybe you're someone working multiple jobs, also balancing parenting duties. I have a big calendar on that wall right over there. The first thing I did when filling it out, and I don't remember who I got this from, so I'm going to give them credit, but I can't remember who it was. The first thing I did is anything that I knew I had already planned as far as fun or trips or activities or things I might even wanted to do, I blocked that off. That way I'm looking at a calendar before I start putting my work obligations or my business obligations. The only availability is what's not already checked off for fun. I know I have a wedding in April. I know I've got some trips planned. Obviously, I'll be back in Michigan at some point. If you treat fun as a priority, and it's to a degree, I mean, we've chosen a life where we really love work, and working is fulfillment for us. But what I'm getting at is to have harmony, treat your fun or whatever like a meeting, like something with yourself. That way, when it's time to have fun, you can go all in on having fun and not worry about work. And then when it's time to work, you're not worried about having fun and you don't feel like you're missing out because you've got some things already penciled in that you can sign off and turn off of work mode when that time comes.
I think that's some great advice that I'm going to take as well. The only things we have on our calendar that I have on my calendar blocked off is really date nights with my wife, because obviously she's my best friend and I don't want to just continue to talk about that. But I kind of don't really hang out with that many people anymore either, because we've, like you said, built a life around a career that is fun at the same time. Now, who knows if 10 years down the road that'll be the same thing. But right now, heck yeah, I want to work and build this company and multiple other companies to help support the people in the company, our work family, and also my family at home to have a better life. It is very important to block off the family time for everybody as well. But one thing I actually wanted to circle back on is caffeine usage, because you mentioned caffeine and discipline. I think that it's very important to educate high performers and people in stressful work positions to really focus on their caffeine intake, because there's coffee, unlimited coffee in a lot of workplaces. I know in the past I was doing 3 energy drinks a day, and it basically doesn't have any effect on me anymore. When I drink caffeine, I actually almost fall asleep, and that's ruined my nervous system kind of. I don't have any good responses to caffeine. And I think that since I have pretty much quit, I have a coffee every now and then. I had a coffee before this podcast, so now I'm just trying to stay awake. Totally kidding. But I think it's very important to regulate your caffeine intake because it can have negative effects. And now you just become reliant on it. But I wanted to just stress that since I quit, I feel a million times better. Like I don't rely on, I'm not like, oh, I just need the energy drink for the taste now. Going through all the terrible chemicals that are in energy drinks as well, how bad they are for you at the same time. But I think that we should, as a whole, focus on limiting caffeine.
100%. 100%. And I've done 3 periods where I've cold turkey cut it in the last 2 years. This most recent one was 3 months. And the first 5 days was, I had actually slept 9 hours both nights the first 2 days and napped. Your body just gets stuck in that fight or flight sympathetic state. And when you come off of it and your body gets a chance to unclench and actually rest and recover. And then after that, it wasn't hard. I just noticed how habitual caffeine was in my life. Running an errand, oh, let's get a coffee out while we're out and about. Energy drinks I had kind of gotten away from, but at a different point in my life, I'm older, so I'm an OG White Monster guy. I would always go to gas stations and get the buy two, whatever, 2 for 1 or 3 for 2, whatever the deals were. Always with the monsters. Pre-workouts, the higher the caffeine, the better the pre-workout all through my 20s. I thought that was the thing. Now, I can't even handle caffeine pre-workout because it gets me too anxious and jittery, and I just don't like that feeling. So you nailed it. I think caffeine is not something that I'll say is bad. It just, you have to know how to use it for performance and make sure it doesn't end up derailing you. But if, what we were talking about, if you're waking up tired and the first thing you consume is caffeine beverage, coffee, whatever, caffeine tablet, you're adding gasoline to a fire that's already building, and it's going to catch up. And like I said, I think a lot of people, what they perceive as burnout is you're just too wired, and you're not, your systems are broken. You're not actually burnt out.
Yeah, I agree. And one thing to mention that I used to drink frequently in my 20s that had caffeine in it were Four Locos, and I'm very glad that those are gone for everybody's sake.
Yeah, I had a couple, they just didn't work with me. But I saw some people acting a fool with some Four Locos in their hand. That was a fun time. You got to be old enough to remember those.
Yeah, yeah. There was a time in my life where those were the start to the party, and I'm very thankful every single day that is not my life anymore.
Tell me some moments along the way, because obviously what you're doing right now is the culmination of several businesses you've started, stopped, whatever the case. Moments that you've almost been at your breaking point where you've wanted to quit.
Well, so far in the last year, I haven't had a breaking point because I've worked so much on myself. That's what I think. I go to therapy every 2 weeks as well, which has helped tremendously. I'm not shy about talking about that either. I think it's incredible for everybody to go to therapy because even just to get stuff out, not even if the therapist responds, just being able to talk to somebody and get out what's really on your mind. But in the past, I've been at companies I was working 80 to 90 hours, just running myself into the ground. I felt like I looked like a zombie. My eyes were shrunk in my face. My whole face was full of inflammation. My body was. Um, I didn't see my family at all, caused issues at home. And that was a breaking point about 2023 ish. And then thankfully, the universe said that you're having enough of this and ended that. But uh, in the new stuff that we have going on, it's just a lot of fun. There have been a lot of high stressful points. I think a lot of individuals in my position would have quit, but then I one go to therapy and two have an incredible wife who is very supportive as well, who has jumped in the business and has helped in every single way. So I think those two, and then the other two things that I want to talk about are being there for my kids, right? Seeing my kids there and knowing that I'm doing this for them, and then the culture that we have created, seeing everybody online all day, not hopefully not hating their jobs, right? But loving their jobs and communicating and building the culture that we created of all stars. That's what we say here. Um, that's been incredible. So there's so many drivers that don't make me want to reach a breaking point, and it's almost a fault because, as my wife says, "Oh look, Jesse tripped and started a business again." Um, of course, the businesses that we are creating are vertically integrated, right? New term. It's been a lot of fun, but as far as a breaking point, I'm very tough now based off of what I had to go through since 2023. And I think I'm in the right position to lead and not break. Um, so I think that's that. Yeah. What about you?
Yeah, to touch on that, I think you make a good point that the experiences that an individual has calluses you, and that's how resiliency is built, which then changes your overall perception of what stress actually is. You know, you mentioned others would have quit. It's not because we're better or superior or stronger or anything like that. It's just a matter of what we perceive as stress. It's you know, my actual apartment would have to be in flames for me to potentially have a stressed reaction. There's a way for me to manage so many different things happening at once and just stay even and stay calm and throttle back and look at the big picture, look at the board as a whole rather than like freaking out over one little thing. And I think that is the cost of the pursuit of greatness, is you have to accept that that's going to be your life, that there is no Monday through Friday you're on that schedule, and then on Saturday and Sunday you get to flip the switch off. It is a 7 days a week, 365 days a year, even when you're not working, and maybe even when you're having fun, there's still some background chatter in the back of your head about work or career or goals, whatever the case is. I don't think you can get around that. And I think a lot of people slow themselves down because they wrestle with that thought. Whereas I've just come to accept it. This is how I am. This is who I am. I like being like that. This pursuit, for whatever the reason, I don't know why Tommy Stiles, a kid from Bath, Michigan, is inclined to want to pursue the things I do or have the goals I have. But that's just how I'm made up. So authenticity, once you decide and accept who you are, you're not stressed because you can remind yourself that you're choosing this. You get to have a lot on your plate. You get to have 16-hour days. You get to have nights where sleep isn't the best. It's all a choice. So for me, there was there's a few different checkpoints, but I looked at them as opportunities rather than like breaking points. There's been, in 2024, I was kind of in a spot where coaching wasn't as fulfilling for me anymore. And and I was seeking some sort of chaos because chaos has always been my fuel source, which has been the source of my latest inner work, is learning to not look at inner peace as boredom and not seeking chaos as a form of life. So that, was a challenging year in that I had achieved everything that I set out to do when I moved to Arizona from Michigan in 2019, and I didn't really have any thoughts of what's next because I kind of didn't think. It's not that I doubted I could achieve it. I just didn't really plan for it. So that was a learning lesson for me in that I'm someone that I need to raise the bar. I need to always be moving forward and pursuing more, which is a double-edged sword mentality because unless you're acutely self-aware, you have trouble staying present and appreciating the moments, which is something I'm trying to do these last few months especially, is slow down, appreciate every single individual moment, good or bad, for what it is, and not always looking, 1 year down the line, 2 years down the line, and so on. But it wasn't a breaking point, but I know it's where most people would have broke, is 2019, where I was living. The girl kicked me out with no real warning. All my stuff was packed up in the garage, and without hesitation, I got there, saw that, processed it for 5 minutes, grabbed enough stuff to go to the gym where I was working, and that's where I moved into. I lived in the back, and I checked in with my coach the next morning, as if that was supposed to happen. I just treated it like it was, Thursday going into Friday, and that was just part of what was supposed to happen. That became a high that made me addicted to chaos. So it obviously had a double-edged sword connotation to it, but I think breaking points are only breaking points if you decide that you're going to be broken. If you take the perspective of, this is a launching pad, this is the adversity I'm facing. If I get through this adversity, there's growth and fulfillment on the other side. It's kind of like the cardio that no one wants to do. 45 minutes, you got to get on the stairs or the treadmill or whatever, any hard task that you don't want to do it, but if you just stick it out, get through it, you're going to feel 100 times better, and you're going to be proud of yourself for doing it once it's complete. It's just a lot longer. It's not 45 minutes. It's probably years we're talking, depending on the level of adversity, but it's a good analogy because the main takeaway is just keep going. Like, if you just don't stop moving, no matter how hard it feels, you'll get to where you want to go.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. And also, if you make a mistake, don't dwell on it. Just say, fuck it. Go to the next thing. Move along, right? You made a mistake. You don't have to sit there and be like, oh no, what's going to happen? Just move forward. That's what separates a lot of high performers. They don't just sit there and just swim in their mistakes. They look forward to the future. How can I fix that? How can I not do it again? Everything is a learning experience. And I think me and you both have learned so many things. I mean, just like you, I had to move into a place in a basement that I wasn't able to get any sleep. I had to sleep on a couch, on a broken couch, and there was cigarette smoke, and I had to ride my bike to work. But that's another story for another time.
Those moments moments like that, or for me, it's like laying on a futon in the back of a gym in a room where there had been a fire 4 months earlier, and I'm looking at wires and shit hanging from the ceiling. What was your thought process like in those moments when you're by yourself, just the world shut down? Because I know you had a lot of late nights, because I did. What were some of the things that would go through your head of, were you only thinking forward, or were there any moments where you're like, man, how did I get here?
I wasn't that mature yet. I wasn't as mature as you were in your situation. I knew that I had to just move forward and I couldn't just sit there and wilt away where many people probably would, right? So from that instance, I mean, I had to I had to find a job. So I got a bicycle, right? Had to ride my bicycle in the snow to the job. Saved up a little bit from there. Um, got a car, got a new job. Then just started to work up from there as well. It was a very bad environment that I knew I had to get out of. Didn't want to stay in it whatsoever. Ended up having to leave sooner rather than later. And of course, it was another story where my wife was there to save me at that time, like many other times. But yeah, you sit there and you're like, what did I do to get here? I knew for me in that instance, I was a very, very irresponsible person and learned from those. One day I just woke up, not in this situation, but after that, I woke up and was just like, you need to change your life. So luckily, as a young kid, my stepdad, he instilled very hard work into me. He was always working at home, and that was the one thing I'd say I got from my parents was just to not sit around. Right? It's actually a really big fault of mine as well. I don't know how to relax, and I always have to be working. I can't take a nap, type of thing. But I think just learning from that and moving on as well. You're sitting there in this shithole and you're like, I need to move forward and I need to build a new life. And I think that was the realization that I got from there.
Yeah. I can relate, especially with my parents made me I grew up rural. Like, we had a lot of land to manage and, push mow the tree lines and weed whack the ditch and all these things that I hated doing. But looking back, I'm grateful that I was made to do them because it taught me work ethic. But there was moments for me where I would, because I was 28 when this happened. I thought back to, man, 10 years ago, I graduated high school. And when you're 18, you don't have any sort of foresight. You live in the moment. You can't even think about a week from now, let alone 10 years. But I was like, I know my 18-year-old self did not see me living in a gym at 28. So I had that moment. And then I think this is where it's a choice. You can either choose to be a victim and let that victim mentality keep you still, or you can choose to accept what is and decide to move forward. And I think that one decision of victimhood or forward action is pivotal. I've seen a lot of people have situations like this and even worse than ours. I was just grateful to have, a roof over my head and that I wasn't living under a bridge. A lot of people, if they choose victimhood, that then creates their reality for the rest of their life unless they ever decide to break free from it. If you choose forward action, the skill set and the character that you gain from that forward action, and obviously getting out of the circumstances that you're trying to move forward from anyway, there's no online course, there's no mentor, there's no amount of money you can pay to get that skill set. You have to be willing to get in the mud and wade your way out.
I agree. We align in so many ways. It's crazy. I'm really glad that we're doing our first episode of a podcast.
Yeah. For as long as we've known each other 11 years, but it's usually our conversations are very brainstorming and like big picture. We don't ever actually sit down and kind of hammer it out and learn about each other. So I hope people are taking value from it. Kind of want to switch gears though into, men, low testosterone. It's a theme. It's a common theme, especially in 2026. We see it every single day in lab work and just talking to different people from all walks of life. We've seen it for years. Why do you think even driven men end up feeling flat, tired, anxious, unmotivated, all the above?
I think it's a pandemic. It is. I mean, we've known about it. We've known about it for 11, 12 years too, right? we've seen it, and it's become more and more prevalent because more people are taking their health into their own hands. Um, I think that there's so many factors that are thrown into this, but a couple of them are we're not getting the right food from the ground, all the estrogens and the packaging that we're consuming, um, sitting on screens all day as well. A lot of people say it has to do with marijuana use. I doubt that whatsoever. I think that's some BS. But I think that everyone is just complacent nowadays too. You're taught from a system. The system, you go to school, they teach you that you should go to college. The college just controls you and limits you on your growth. You spend a bunch of money. I think everything is just meant to control you. And having, in a way, having low testosterone is one of them, because until just recently, they had a false black box warning on testosterone. They just recently took it off, and that it caused heart disease. So, no, regulated in the right way, absolutely. There's still physicians, not their fault, but they're not educated at it. So that's why we're finding we work with the right physicians as well, and talk to other people who do the right things to bring people up to optimal levels. Even regular guys, if they feel like their testosterone is at a good level just because a physician says so, doesn't mean that it's necessarily what's best for them. So they should bring that up to what's called an optimal level, where also they feel as good, right? You got to feel it with your symptoms and not just read some measure on a piece of paper. Oh yeah, you're within this range. That means you're good. No, that means you are in the same range as everybody else across the country. People who eat fast food, people who sit on a couch all day, play video games, whatever. Even a high performer, you're supposed to be the same as that person just playing video games all day. No, you're meant to do the things that you want to do, and you can perform even better. You can be there for your family. You don't have to crash at the end of the day. You can have longevity at the same time. We're not really allowed to say anti-aging all the time, but I'm going to say it. It's anti-aging. When you have optimal hormones and they're not crashing out, you're less susceptible to things like different diseases and age decline diseases too. So I think there's a lot of opportunity here to educate, and I think that we are on the right trajectory and pathway to be able to do it. And that's only one hormone, right? That's just testosterone. Why not talk about all the other ones too? But that's just one tool in our toolkit to help optimize men across the country.
Normal labs don't mean everything's all right. It doesn't mean there can't be improvement. It's so individual. My philosophy when I'm on calls with people and I'm going over blood work is I ask a lot of questions. I pry. I dig deep. I ask the hard questions because it's very vulnerable for a man to admit to another man that he's not feeling sexual attraction to his spouse or women in general, or that he has erectile like that is a very, very tough thing for a man to admit, like, hey, my dick's not working, or something feels off in my head and I don't know why. I know it is. So I'm not afraid to ask, but I also ask from a place of understanding and not judging, because I see it time and time again. And I want to create that trust and that rapport and that, feeling that this is a safe place. I want to help you get better. That's why I have to ask these questions, because, all numbers are arbitrary, but just to give listeners an example, say you have a guy who falls into the normal range, let's just say 350, which is on the lower end of the range, and the ranges can vary depending on the lab. He's normal by range standards, but he has low drive, he's always tired, he gets exhausted when he exercises, if he exercises. His libido is low. He may come off as anxious. He may even come off as depressed. A lot of times, if he's gone to his primary care physician for this, they jump down the rabbit hole of antidepressants, mood disorders, without ever even considering that it could be hormone related. And this isn't me on some tangent like this is a war, us against them. It's just these are the facts. I've seen too many guys that are like that example I just gave, who go on TRT and are new men within 6 months, maybe sooner. They have energy. They're now thinking clearer. They get up in the morning and they want to attack the day. They want to be leaders for their family. They're better protectors for their family. They have energy in the gym. And not only do they have energy in the gym, they want to pursue looking a certain way because they know it'll make them feel better. They want to defy the effects of aging. You don't have to get worse as you get older. We live in a time that we can control how we age. Aging is going to happen regardless, but you get to decide how you look, how you feel based off of the choices you make today. So people aren't numbers, they're individuals. As another example, you could have a man that's a same guy, 350 test, who has no symptoms. He just happens to have a higher free test and he converts better than other guys. That guy actually may get worse if he goes on TRT because then he will start getting a bunch of side effects. High hematocrit, anxiety, maybe his estrogen goes through the roof. So it's not, certain number, you go on TRT. We want to optimize people, but we're not trying to optimize numbers as much as we're trying to optimize lifestyle and how people feel. But again, none of that can be done without a set of blood work in front of us, seeing everything, all the pieces of the puzzle on the table. And none of it, for me personally, for me to be the best advocate I can for people that come to Logic, I can't do it without a consult, asking questions, getting an idea of what are you actually feeling and what's your day-to-day like, not just what does this set of numbers tell me. I can get a pretty good idea off the numbers, but I can really marry the two when I get that feedback.
I like that you touched on having to create the relationship and asking the right questions. What is wrong with having, well, if I take a step back, what is hematocrit? Why is it bad to have high hematocrit? And what is estradiol? And why is it bad to have high estradiol?
Well, it's all relative to the person, but obviously hematocrit is the amount of red blood cells. So the higher the number, usually the thicker the blood, can lead to clotting disorders, stroke. I've also personally noticed, because it's, my CBC, red blood cells, hemoglobin, and hematocrit, has always been something I have to watch. There is a genetic component to it. I do think hydration plays a big role. If you go into your lab draw dehydrated, which you wake up dehydrated, so that's why I always tell people, drink enough water to the point where you're uncomfortably nauseous from the amount of water you've consumed before your draw, because it does play a role. I think especially, bigger people if you're someone who's been in the gym for a long time and you have a good amount of muscle on your body, it's going to play a role. And I've seen it because I've had my hematocrit be elevated for a blood draw, and then a week later I've went and donated blood in the afternoon, and they test your hemoglobin there, and roughly, not exact, but pretty close, your hematocrit is your hemoglobin multiplied by 3. And what I'm getting at is midday, after I've had over a gallon of fluids and sodium from meals, my hematocrit was normal, where a week ago it was elevated to the point where, a primary care physician would have told me I was going to have a stroke. So hydration plays a big role, but the susceptibility for strokes, blood clots goes up the higher the hematocrit. I do think, I would like to learn more on this and talk to some more people who are smarter than me, because what's got me thinking lately is, cyclists. I think they're pretty healthy and they're not dying of strokes and blood clots. But I know, especially ones that use EPO or other performance enhancers, they live with a hematocrit that would scare most physicians just at sight. I don't see these guys dropping dead. So I am curious about hematocrit as a whole, and I want to learn more on it this year, especially because I've seen so many hydration cases. I had a patient recently Elevated hematocrit on the blood draw. He went and donated blood the next week, midday. Hematocrit was 7 points lower, no worries. So does this person actually have thick blood, or was the blood drawn at a time where he was still dehydrated because he hadn't had enough water yet?
And a blood draw or just donating blood just fixes that at the time, right? Because if you're at a constant
It's a
state,
Band-Aid.
yeah, it's a band-aid. If you're at a constant state of having high hematocrit, you're just going to donate. It's going to bring it down a little bit, but then it's just going to go right back up, right?
Well, your body is going to perceive that as a loss of red blood cells. So in response, it's going to create more. So 2 weeks later, you'll be right back to where you were, if not further.
Yep. Everybody note that
so
because that is an old wives' tale with physicians. So if you are told to go donate blood, it'll be good for the time being. Go get blood work right after. They'll be happy. But in the long run, it's not going to change much.
Yeah, the only benefit is from a Good Samaritan selflessness act of there is a large shortage of blood for a lot of procedures. So if you're donating blood for that reason, rock on. The world needs it. We're getting close on time, so we can wrap it up here. Where can people find us if they want to seek out hormonal optimization and blood work from Logic Health?
We are at logichealth.co and logichealth_ on Instagram.
This is Greatness in Motion. We're not here to be good. We're here to understand what greatness actually requires.